here from Washboard Resonators, and this video is to give you some tips on how to play drums at the 1920s style and help you eliminate some of the common mistakes people make. Things to do if you want to play more authentically in a 20s style is to not play a hi-hat. So the jazz pattern that we know now this wasn't in full usage until the 30s really, and even then it wasn't really common, but let's say the 30s. So if you're like me and most of us, you'll be used to having that hi-hat in your setup. So I still use it, but I just use it with my foot on 2 and 4. But the main time is now transferred to the snare drum. Your main time now is on the snare drum, and it's using a lot of press rolls. There's a few different ways people play it that I've demonstrated in the video, and you can either have a slow press roll, we'll use both of your hands and it's playing for full minims on 2 and 4, or a bit faster, people tend to have 4 crotchets in the right and then dragging on the left, or even faster again, that drag can go up and down left, and you can even play just in minims in the right hand. So just like when you're playing later styles, when you're accompanying soloists, you want to change the backing out to make it more interesting for them and the audience and hopefully inspire some other ideas. So these aren't the only ways of backing soloists, but they're some of the common ways to do it because it's the way that the sounds of the kit lend to complementing the soloist instrument. So if we're playing, if you're having a light instrument like a piano or banjo or guitar, we tend to move on to the wood blocks and the rims of the drums as it's a lighter kind of sound. And the sound of it is still quite contrapuntal, it's quite kind of busy in relation to what we know now. If you listen to people like Ray Baduke or Baby Dodds, people like that, they use a lot of blocks, and it's an interesting sound because it's in the background, so it's an accompaniment, but it's also quite busy. So I've demonstrated how you would kind of back a soloist using those sounds, and they would also fit into your drum solo if you wanted to add them in. If you're backing some of the louder instruments like a trumpet or a trombone or something like that, you tend to go on to the cymbal, something more cutting that cuts through, and there's a few different ways of playing that I've demonstrated in the video. If you've got multiple brass solos or something, then you want a slightly different backing between the soloists, so you can have long strokes in the cymbal, you can have short ones, you can have completely choked, and you can play kind of underneath the cymbal as well, doing some tricky cymbal patterns. And finding it useful, please subscribe to us at the Washboard Resonators and ring the bell to get notified, and there's a lot more videos like this from both me and Martin. So next I'm going to talk about the bass drum. it's basically pretty simple. You're either playing in 2 or playing in 4, depending on the kind of style of the song. It might be a slightly later style, 20s rather than earlier one, and then just listen to what the bass or sousaphone is playing, and you match that generally. So the other, I think, big kind of common mistake a lot of drummers make when trying to play some 20s stuff if they're not used to it is using your toms like you would in later styles of music, because really in this era the toms were still a sound effect, or say I'm just using one Chinese tom, and they're still like kind of sound effect or trap, just like the woodblock and the cowbells are. So when you play these, rather than thinking about fills that go around the toms and using them like you would in later styles, just think of them as an extra sound effect like you would use a cowbell, and it's demonstrated here what I mean by that. Today on how to play like a 1920s drummer is how to end the song. So in the final chorus, how to just ramp and everything, lift everything up a bit more for everyone. So there's a couple of different ways of doing it, but in the video I demonstrate there's like press rolls all the way through, they're just constant, there's like a blanket to keep everyone cooking and warm under there, or that press rolls with an accent that can be in the roll, or like kind of like 5-stroke rolls between them, so it's accenting even more, even by I'm guessing the 30s, but the backbeats were coming in a bit, just not as we know them, just these accents. Or you can even have, sometimes you just have the choke cymbal as a crash, or sometimes you have both snare drum and crash together, even keeping that press roll in. So there's something to lift the last chord. Thanks for watching, hope you found that helpful, and we'll see you again soon.